Everybody, welcome to this week's episode. I have a guest for you this week, and we are going to be talking about one of, if not the most important metric that you need to be tracking in your clinic, whatever size you are, and why you also need to make sure that you have a benchmark for this metric. So if you want to know more, stay tuned in and listen to this short, sharp, very interesting episode with Darren. Welcome to the Treat Your Business podcast with Katie Bell. I'm Katie, and this is the place where clinic owners like you learn the strategies, tools, and mindset shifts needed to transform your clinic into a thriving business, one that gives you more time, more money, and more freedom. Born from a passion to challenge the idea that average is normal, we empower clinic owners to create extraordinary businesses, incomes, and lives. Through our world-class coaching programs, we help you step out of overwhelm and into confidence, turning your clinic into a business that fuels your lifestyle, not draining it. So, are you ready? Let's dive in. I'm delighted to tell you this episode of the Treat Your Business podcast is proudly brought to you by Nucal, the leading practice management software designed to streamline operations and empower every allied health clinic. Their platform seamlessly handles every aspect of your clinic, from scheduling and clinical note-taking to invoicing and reporting. Their innovative solution will help streamline your clinic and free up your valuable time, allowing you to focus on delivering better patient care and growing your business. So if you're tired of juggling multiple systems and wasting precious hours on administrative tasks, then experience the innovation of Nucal and discover how it can improve the efficiency and profitability of your practice. Visit nucal.com today to learn more about how their automated features and user-friendly interface can revolutionise the way you manage your practice. Unlock the full potential of your clinic with Nucal, the practice management software that puts you in control of your time. Now, let's get back to business. Welcome to the Treat Your Business podcast. Super excited to have you here, Darren. Thank you for giving up your time to speak to our listeners.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So we first met, Darren, across the way at Therapy Expo, like last year, was it? Yeah, last November.
Yeah.
And we got chatting. You were there exhibiting as we were. So for our listeners, tell everybody who you are and where you're from.
So my background is I am a physiotherapist. I did physiotherapy for 22 years. I sold my physio clinic around 4 or 5 years ago, just before COVID. I specialised in the cervical spine. So I've got a master's degree in research on cervical spine, and then I utilised that in private practice. So we had 2 locations across multiple sites, had a multidisciplinary clinic. So I had physios, pods, massage therapists, EPs, psychs, and OTs in the clinic. Yeah, and it was successful, but we developed a software system within the practice. My partner, my wife, is a management accountant. So we set up a software system to be able to manage the clinic or the sites as a business, right? And then when we sold the clinic, we took that with us, and that's where Nucal sort of birthed out 6 years ago, really. So it's been good. It's been a good, tough 5 years, but we're getting there. Yeah, that's right. That's so. And I guess having that background of being a practice owner and a therapist myself gives me a lot of insight into understanding what the needs are. And software has changed significantly in the last even 2 to 3 years, with compliance, automation, and AI, obviously. And we're looking at all of those sort of things right now.
Yeah, and I think that's really powerful, isn't it, Darren? Because one of the things that I think we do really well in Thrive is that we come from real experience, and so we produce real results. And you are the same. You've been there, you've done it, you've walked the walk, you've talked the talk, you've seen what there wasn't in terms of software
100%.
And the failures. And then you've been able to, I guess, build this out of a passion for knowing what clinic owners really need to ensure they're running a profitable company.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. Profitable company is what we want. Like, I had a real drive myself personally to see the allied health profession more successful than what we are currently. We're very empathetic. We're very good at treating people. However, like dentistry, for example, they have mastered the art of marketing their businesses really well. We need to do that in our profession. And it all comes back to outcome measures, data, reporting, making objective decisions. Because a lot of us physios, we run our practice based on how we're feeling. And because we're so busy as well, we're not running it like a business. And if we can get the information in, even automate the information, and then the data will be able to help us make objective decisions. I think that's really important.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm really glad that we're chatting about this, Darren, because this is something I'm banging on about all the time. We've got to up level our industry. And I've
100%.
I presented at a few dentistry conferences actually years ago. You know, when you were in the phase of, I just need to be everything to everybody, and I didn't know what I was doing. I don't do that anymore. But I was always blown away by the level that they were at in terms of their marketing, their profitability, and how they were functioning. And then recently, we've been more and more involved with the pods and podiatry and health professionals.
Yes.
And that's really surprising me as well, that they are even a level that seems different to us physios or sports therapists, massage therapists. And it's made me really kind of see that this even bigger gap in our industry. We are lagging so far.
Absolutely. And we are, in my personal belief, I think we're really good at what we do. Excellent at what we do. And we need to be rewarded for that. So I think that's where I want to be able to help people with the software we're giving them. Like, we really can assist you in growing your practice.
Yeah.
Streamline, automate, and grow. Like, that's really what you should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So with your software, because people have got choices, haven't they, on the market?
100%.
There's lots of different ones out there. But what I really like about you, Darren, is that you get straight to the nitty gritty of what's the most important thing. And then your software goes and delivers on that. And you heard me talk at the Therapy Expo. I was talking about retention rates, patient value average, retention rate, whatever you want to call it. For me, is one of, if not the most important metric that you need to be in. Alongside profit, retention rate really equals profitability, as long as you are, ensuring that retention rate is at a certain level. So
correct.
You're really passionate about this, is how you've developed the software to kind of ensure that they're tracking it in an optimal way, and then they're then able to make the right decisions based on what they're seeing.
Yeah, so that's good. That's a great question. So there's a number of things you need to probably consider. It's like your PVA, what's your patient visit average, what's your benchmark, what's your customer lifetime, what's your occupancy rate, and what is your average visit value, for example, 4 or 5 metrics. What you want to do is get that data on a monthly basis, looking at trends and setting benchmarks of what you're looking to achieve in that. So if I look at retention, a billing, like if we look at how we bill in practice, there's 4 main methods of how we bill. We bill via pay per visit. So they pay one to one, which is solid, but it can be done better. Then we've got block visits. So you can prepay or buy a package or a session, number of sessions. And, that's a good thing as well, but there's a ceiling on that. There's a direct debit. So a lot of classes and what have you do that, which is a really good method. And there's prepaid plans, which you can provide a bit of a discount to. One of the things that I used to do in my clinic is I used to want to look at a PVA, so of 4 to 6. So I would say to every one of my therapists of what's it worth for you to be a therapist, and how are you going to get a good outcome with your patient? So you're not going to fix someone in one session. It's impossible. But what you need to say, and I used to say this to all my patients, I used to say, look, give me 3 to 4 sessions. If we're not getting anywhere after 3 to 4 sessions, then maybe it's not working, or we're going to see this change. So I would always bulk book. I would book 4 sessions up front to give myself a chance to get the patient better. And so that's where the patient bulk books in, and then they're bought in. Like you deliver the plan of what outcomes you want to achieve, right? It might be, I don't know, for an ankle ATFL injury, it might be I need a wall of 10 centimeters, whatever it is, right? So when you spread the payments out or do the payments over a period of time, they've bought in and they feel like they're part of the journey. And I think you're going to get better outcomes as therapists, and you're also going to get higher profitability and better retention. in my opinion.
Yeah. And
yeah,
that completely aligns with how we do it in my clinic as well. I was only talking about this on a masterclass yesterday, and they said, oh, we're tracking retention. And I said, great, what's your standard? What's your
benchmark?
What's your benchmark?
100%.
We don't have one. I said, so how does your therapist know what they're aiming for?
That's right.
How do you performance manage them? How do you develop them? How do you
Correct.
You measure them against anything? So having a benchmark is really important. It's not about being salesy. It's not about selling something to somebody that they don't need, but it's giving the patient, facilitating the recovery and the achievement of those goals, rather than just facilitating ongoing pain, because we're too afraid to have that conversation that actually this isn't just a pay-as-you-go, one session at a time way of working.
It doesn't work. That one session at a time doesn't give retention. And you're not actually doing the right thing by you as a therapist, because you're not giving yourself the best chance to get that patient better. And I think if you can provide the outcomes you want at the end of 4 weeks, for example, and the patient sees those outcomes, they're going to go, oh, this guy's really good, or this girl's really good. I'm going to go and tell everyone about it. They're straight up. They're telling me what the plan is, and then they're delivering on what they're doing. And I think that's really important. I mean, I know that's why we developed the software, for example. Like, one of the things we've got in Nookel is cases. So, for example, I used to treat a lot of whiplash-associated disorders and cervicogenic headaches. So we've got cases in Nookel, and I could tell after 12 months of data what were the average number of sessions. I think I averaged 5.2 for a cervicogenic headache. So I could say to my patients, say you came and saw me, Katie, I'd say, okay, Katie, you've got a CO1 headache. On average, I take about 5 to 6 sessions to make a change. I said, let's do the 4 sessions straight up, and then let's do that once a week for the next 4 weeks. And then if you're feeling 75% better at that time, we'll book it out 2 weeks. And then after a couple of months, I'll do a checkup in a month. There's your plan, boom, and there's client retention. And I give them a whole, and so it's called the case visit average in Nookel. You can measure on average after 12 months what ACL, shoulder subluxations, cervicogenic headache, whatever. You can allocate all these cases and work out what your average visit number is for these. That's really important as a therapist, and that's going to make us look better, I think, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So the second thing I think is worth talking about, Darren, is that there's some psychology that goes on here, isn't there, around patient retention. I talk about this a lot in Thrive, and I'm really interested to hear your
You're probably better than me at it. I mean, look, I guess the psychology, it comes down to the burden of payment. There's an element from that. I felt like the psychology of retention improved when you gave the patient achievable outcomes and you spread the burden of payment over time. That's the two things of how I did. I don't know what your thoughts are around that. And if I achieved these goals in a month or two, the relationship with my patient, the trust went through the roof. And then they would believe what I would say more. And that's obviously important, because you don't want hard sells. You just want to educate them on what the progress is and how they're going to track along that. And then if the payments are spread over time,
it's a win-win, isn't it? I do a puppet show, Darren. I won't bore you with the puppet show now, but I have a lizard, an elephant, and 2 monkeys. And this is all about what's going on in the 3 parts of your brain when somebody is trying to sell you something or advise you of something. Ultimately, we have to build a like, know, and trust factor up for people to feel comfortable in the moment of making that decision.
100%.
That we can do that. But I think one of the things that we see a lot, and I talk about a lot, is when people make a decision to come for physio. So they've got woken up with another headache, and they've decided to ring you, Darren, in your clinic because you're the expert at treating people with headaches. When they book, they're in a state of what we call uninformed optimism. So they feel optimistic that they have made the booking, actually put it in the diary, they've done it, but they're uninformed because they have no idea at that stage that, Darren, you might be saying to them, you need to change your chair, you need to start working at your desk for 12 hours a day.
Correct.
You need to do these exercises twice a day for the next 6 months. You need to take this supplement. You need to drink more, sleep more, reduce your stress. They've got no idea we're going to tell them half of that stuff. So they're uninformed but optimistic. Now, what happens when we do an initial assessment quite often is they drop into something called informed pessimism. And that's because they've come to you, Darren, and you've done an amazing job, but they've just gone, shit, this is way worse than I thought it was. This isn't a one-time fix. This isn't a quick massage.
Correct. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I'm now informed, but I'm now feeling a little bit low and depressed about the actual state of my neck and my head. Now, if you have a pay-as-you-go session and go, well, Darren, just, come back whenever.
That's right. This doesn't work.
They go back in the loop because they'll think, oh, maybe I'll try swimming, or maybe I'll try something else. Maybe I'll want to see somebody else, or I'll do that latest thing I've seen on Google or YouTube. And we just go around this loop. And that's when we see the biggest cancellation rate. We see the biggest dropout rate.
I was just about to talk 100% no shows in. I was just about to say, that was one of the things in the software. I wanted to automate all of that. I want to automate the follow-ups. I want to automate on-client behavior. So what's going on? What outcome measures are we using? So we've got outcomes, like we can use a neck disability index, an NDI that we get sent out via a link to the patient after 4 sessions. It's got a link on their phone. They can fill out the NDI. It comes back into the software. I can see the NDI, the objective measure, tracking as we go along. I create a graph in the clinical notes. So things like I can track their retention, the last attendance, so DNAs and unable to UTAs. I can send automated follow-ups to this patient just through, it's very easy to set up. You set it up once and then it goes for every patient. After 4 weeks, I used to send an automatic follow-up with an outcome measure like an NDI in, and I do track their NDI, the neck disability index, things like that. Right? Or patient-specific functional scale, things like that.
And that's so important that we have things in place that scoop up these.
And then we can care about the patient more, right? We do all the other stuff. That's right. 100%. Yeah. So that's where the future of automation, AI, I mean, that's all just common sense to us as therapists. We know that. And that all needs to be built in a system so that the therapists can do a better job and retain their clients, show their PVA is higher, increase their profitability, all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And it's amazing how many. I was recording some content yesterday for our Evolve program, which is for clinic owners who are relatively small. They're self-employed, they might work on their own, but they have a database of clients, big or small, doesn't matter. And one of the things I was getting them to do yesterday was to look at their lapsed client list. Was literally just look in the last month, the last 3 months, and the last 6 months.
Correct. That's right. Last attendance report.
Yeah, and I said, use your software. If your software can't do it, change software because it's crap. You need to
the last attendance report in Knuckle. I used to run it the last Friday of every month. My office manager used to run it, stick it in the pigeonhole of all the guys. The following Monday, their job was to just follow up via the call to see how they're going.
Absolutely.
And not to sell them to come back in. It's more like, hey, Bob, how you going? How's that neck injury? Okay, I'm here if you need me. Oh, actually, and you'd find that you get 10 to 20% of people come back in just by calling.
And you know what? It's so funny because on my PowerPoint presentation, I was speaking over it. I said, I'm going to give you a reactivation kit with 5 different campaigns, right? But you can forget all of that and you can just pick up your phone and say, hi, Bob, it's Katie, your physio. I've not seen 100%. You for a while. I want to just check how you are. And people will, 10 to 20% patient value average of 500 quid. You can make thousands very quickly from just
very easily.
But also then recognizing, okay, so I have an issue with lapsed clients. So let's deal with that. Let's not just keep having loads of lapsed clients. Let's have a follow-up system in place, but also let's look at what we're doing within our initial assessment.
That's exactly right.
Might be meaning they're lapsing because, in my opinion, we over-deliver, we give too much information out, they leave confused, they then don't win at all. Patients need to move from informed pessimism out of the valley of despair into informed optimism. They have to have quick wins. And that means that we need to see them sooner rather than later. We need to make sure we've got pre-booked appointments in.
Yes, I'm hearing you. It's
rather
good.
Than just this kind of whole, we'll just see you in a few weeks. And I'm like, no, if somebody's got acute pain, you might want to be seen 2 or 3 times that week.
That's right, Kate.
So they can sleep. So they can...
Yeah. Or they can have high quality of care, quality of life, sorry. So I was going to say to that, so that's one part of Knuckle I developed, right? So what I did is I built a plan inside. So, for example, if you came in and saw me, Katie, I'd go, all right, I'd go through my subjective, objective treatment, and then my plan, I'd write my notes. Now I'd use dictation, voice to text to do it. And what Nookel does is pull those major points down and write 3 main goals in their treatment plan that I will go through with the patient and go, all right, Katie, our number 1 objective today is increase your range of motion. Say it's a wry neck. Increase your range of motion, decrease your pain, and look at doing some reducing the soft tissue spasm. And then I go, I want to see you once a week, twice a week this week, twice a week next week, once a week for the next 2 weeks after that. And then I'd have a little live chat engine where I'd say, hey, I'd talk to the front receptionist, can you book Katie in twice this week, twice next week, and then we'll reassess her after that. You go out to the front desk, and the girls at the front would go, oh, hi, Katie, Darren wants to see you twice this week, twice next week. Then I would email you the plan. You would see the plan come in your inbox, and then you'd know what the plan is when you walk out of the room, and then you'd have the booking sessions already in. Now, some people wanted to pay up front. Most people didn't. It was their choice. I didn't push that. But then they knew what I was wanting to do. They knew what my 3 goals of treatment were, and then we'd follow that through. And then they felt confident that there was an outcome to be achieved. And then that was all it was, as simple as that. And you can see, and I was going to share my screen, but I can demonstrate that in Nookel, where you just follow the clinical notes through to the plan, through to the communication, and then those 3 or 4 things work together. And then I would go through and share my screen with the patient and show them what the plan was. It's a one page, just really 1-page sheet. And it would, at the bottom, it would have the sessions I wanted to see them for. And then I would email it to them right there, and then they'd go out and book it in. Pretty simple. Yeah.
Simple, so effective. And I always say to our Thrive members, confused clients do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are trying to give them a bazillion things in your initial assessment and you feel overwhelmed, you've run over time, you're chatting to the minute that they're trying to put the clothes on and get out the door because you've got somebody else pulling in straight out. That is not good service. That is not how you should be running your session.
And you haven't communicated the outcomes you want to achieve.
Exactly. And my bugbear is when and my therapists who work for me, bless them, God, can you imagine having to work for me? Hell.
Oh.
But they know my bugbear is when I hear them coming down the stairs with the patient, telling them their plan. And I'm like, I know, okay, that needs to have been discussed in the room. The down the stairs thing is just that reassurance. I'm so looking forward to seeing you next week. Pip's now going to look after you on reception. Not this like, so scramble, we didn't really talk about this, but let's put you in for a few seconds. Feels so rushed, and it feels without integrity. And
it should be part of that initial consult.
Absolutely. So
it all starts there.
So therefore, I say, if you feel confused, if you feel overwhelmed, they will also feel that. And so, yes, it's our responsibility 100%. To create a rehab plan and a whole structure. But sometimes in the first session, I always say to them, what would be a great outcome for you today? And they're like, Katie, if you could just help me with this thing, or just give me the reassurance that I'm not dying of a brain tumor. Okay, that's what we're going to make sure.
Yep, 100%. And they want confidence. Yeah, 100%.
They don't want 65 billion exercises and loads of tips and advice. They want that over time, and we'll give them that. But when you know you've got 5 sessions with them, you can breathe.
So the plan comes in. That's right.
You can be like, I'm going to give you everything you need, but I'm not going to give it you all today because you're going to not take anything away that I've said. So
that's a good point. Sometimes the patients, because they're in a lot of pain, they don't remember everything you said. That's why I used to email them and put it in writing, because then they could take that away tangibly and know that they've got a plan. So yeah, that's good.
We'll remember approximately 25% of everything that you've said in the initial assessment.
That's true.
So you could lose 75% and still have the same outcome.
It's true.
You know?
It's good. It's very good.
So if your software can then support that conversation, support that plan, give them, and also I'm going to just slightly diversify here in that I think, and this is really important to raise, we're seeing in the clinic more and more people disclosing to us that they have ADHD or they have dyslexia or dyscalculia or they need some adjustments in the way we do things. And we do a lot in our clinic to try and help with that in terms of reducing sensory stuff. We turn the music off, we turn the lights down, we ring them when we're ready for them so they can just come in from their car and not have to sit in a busy reception. And,
Yeah, right.
and if it disclose, we try and make reasonable adjustments. But I think one of the things we ought to be aware of, and I think this is where your software is going to be so effective, is that if a client has ADHD, and I am not the expert here, so if I get anything wrong here, I apologize. If they've got ADHD or processing, like that they struggle to put it all together, you just bombarding them with a load of information, they will leave worse than they came to you.
Correct.
And so if you can say, Darren, I don't want you to worry or remember any of this, because you're going to get an email the minute you walk out of here with the 3 things that we are focused on and the plan we've got. That is a really amazing adjustment that we have made or with benefit. And I think that is something that you can really market as a clinic, that your software supports that.
And that allows the patient to go back at home and just read through what was achieved. And that will give them confidence in the therapist. I think that's one of the biggest things on that initial consult. To get retention, you need to have the patient needs to have confidence in you as the therapist. Yeah. And that comes back to not only the billing, but the retention comes back to the confidence that outcomes are going to be achieved. Like you said, they might just want to have one outcome. Okay, if we can deliver that outcome, they've got confidence in you, and that helps retention.
Exactly.
Delivering that in an email also does help as well.
Yeah, of course. And then you're not creating more work for yourself. The software is doing that for you.
Correct. 100%. That's right.
Great. So Darren, you wrote an article around unlocking retention and profitability in your clinic. I don't know if I've just forced you into this, but how can all of our listeners download this report from you?
I've got a link that I'll email you. Katie, you can put that up on the show notes. And I wrote an article on cracking the code on patient retention. So how your billing approach impacts compliance and long-term success. It's a 4 or 5 pages, just really easy. Some ideas about how you can look at different approaches for your clinic. So
amazing. So I'll make sure it goes in the show notes. And Darren, I've loved this conversation. We are super passionate about the same things, and we need to clearly get out more and drink more wine because we're both so passionate.
Yes, we do. It's a problem anyway, but I'm happy to always do that.
But if our listeners want to, like, a lot of them are exploring changing their software right now, and a lot of them are needing better support. They're needing a system with a person on the end of the phone that actually can support them.
Have that.
You guys are great with that. How do they reach out to you, Darren, for more information or connect with you and your team?
Yep. So all you need to do is go to Nookal, nookal.com, sign up for a free trial. And then I've got a full team in the UK, and they will get in contact within 24 to 48 hours after you sign up for a trial and offer you an online demonstration, much like this via Zoom, to demonstrate the benefits of Nookal for your clinic.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we'll make sure that link is also in the show notes. Darren, it has been an absolute pleasure. I've loved talking about everything to do with retention and profitability. Can I ask you to come back again at some point?
Yes, definitely. I've enjoyed it too. Thank you.
You have to do it. You have to do it.
Yes, I have. It's been, I've enjoyed talking to you, Katie. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Darren.